and you're like, what? Like, this was not that kind of.
And if you could see these clients, these young people who are just so full of love and light, who
So
are
idyllic,
small, small in stature, 115 pounds soaking wet.
Yeah, the kid who got knocked down is like literally 115 pounds soaking wet. And and you watch the video, he didn't even speak during the whole protest. He's just there. And we asked him, we said, Noah, like, why did you go there that day? And he said, I just knew. I knew that, like, I had to say that wasn't okay. Like, what happened to that man wasn't okay, and what's happening to black men and women across the country was not okay. And so I went. And even though, like, he's this, like, really quiet guy, like, he just being there meant something. And so to watch him get thrown to the ground and officers tackle him for standing in a sidewalk, it was just more than everybody could handle. And so, like, you heard, it was exactly what they were protesting.
Yeah.
That was, you know what I mean? And so then you had all these other protesters who were young and idyllic, and God bless them. They were just like, I just love them. They're like some of my favorite people in this world. And when they saw that, they called the police officers out for what they were doing, and they didn't like that either. And so then they got arrested. I mean, we have one little, she's not a little girl, but to me, she's a kid.
Yeah.
I could be your mother. They called, they didn't tell anybody about the curfew until like really late, until after the curfew had already like been into effect. And there's this young woman who is like chanting all the way. She's getting in her car, she's opening up her car, and then some officer says some horrible thing to her, and she says, I'm not fucking afraid of you. And then he, as she's sitting down in her car, pulls her from the car and is thrown to the ground. And then he charges her with a curfew violation. You don't tell anybody about the curfew until after the curfew, and then you throw her to the ground when she's trying to leave?
2 minutes after the
2 minutes
curfew.
after you tell her about the curfew? Like, that's insane. And so we held Myrtle Beach City accountable.
So how many were arrested? I know that you guys handled 8 cases. Was that everybody that was arrested?
No, there were way more arrests, but we represented 8 people.
Yeah, I think there were like 20 some.
Okay. And what were they arrested for? Like, were they spending time in jail, or?
Some of them were arrested for disorderly conduct. Yeah, these were not tickets. They were taken to jail, handcuffed, thrown to the ground. Actually, they weren't even handcuffed. They were zip tied, which I thought was ridiculous. Thrown to the ground, zip tied, and then hauled off to jail. And they were, our clients had mainly 2 different charges, and it was either disorderly conduct or
Violation of an executive order.
Yeah, of the curfew.
For the curfew.
And so we took all of them to trial 2 years later. And the first case, we got a directed verdict, which means halfway through, the prosecutor puts on his case. Halfway through that case, they rested, and the judge said that there was not enough evidence. And we had a very conservative judge, and for him to give, directed verdicts are very rare. But I think that
They are.
it spoke volumes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Spoke how ridiculous the charge was. Yeah.
And we talked to the jury after,
I
and
did.
they were so great. They were so cute.
I
I loved them all.
I asked the guy, I was like, well, just tell me what you would have decided had this case made it to you. And he said, oh, absolutely not guilty. And everybody who was there was going to say the same thing. He's like, it was very clear on that video that your client was attacked and tackled to the ground, and he didn't do anything. And he said, and I realized after watching all of the videos that all of the tension was created by the police when they came out in the riot gear and the military fatigues with the assault rifles, and it could have been handled a different way. And he said, and there were way more police officers there than protesters.
There were more errors.
If I was a
than there were
protester, I would have been scared.
Yeah.
Well, and it seemed like the police were scared.
I think,
Which is,
life's not black and white, right?
Right.
We know that. And I'm not giving people a pass, okay? But I think we learned through this whole thing is that there was a fear that kind of like was shaking through the police department about what was to come. And because they were getting like 3 deep from top down, that there were these credible threats of busloads of rioters and looters coming.
Right.
That never came, right? That never,
Right.
and so we heard all these things, and like there's this really bad guy, and he's saying all this stuff on Facebook about how he's gonna like go to the Walmart and like all this stuff. Well, because through all this discovery, we had to fight to get it tooth and nail for 2 years. I mean, they were giving us discovery up until like the Friday before trial, and we started on Monday. We realized that like all these threats were like stupid. They were just stupid.
They're
They were
baseless.
completely silly. They were silly is the word. Like there is like the credible, like the guy who's like threatening Walmart. It was like when you watch, look at it, he's a business owner. He's a college, like he graduated from college, and he's like it's a joke. He's like, heard Walmart saying something like laughy face. It was a joke, right? It's just him being funny. He was there at the protest, but it was just a joke. Like you realize that it's like he's trying to make light of things in a very like hard moment in life.
Yeah.
None of this was like serious, and like the busloads of people coming to riot and everything. Okay, so Karen, literally, that was her name. She calls known for Market Common, and she wants everybody to know that she is seen on Facebook from a very credible source, that they are coming, and she just wants everybody to know that she has a gun, and no one on her street has a gun, but she's going to protect everybody. Like, this is like their credible threats. And so, and the average officer that's on like boots on the ground, literally fatigued military boots on the ground, they don't know that part of it. All they know is like they've seen all this other stuff, and then like in other towns and other cities where it's gotten kind of crazy in these big cities, and then they're hearing all this stuff. They don't know that it's Karen from Market Common with a gun who saw it from a very reliable source on Facebook. You know, that's like all they knew is like the worst of it. And so I think that their tensions were very high. I think they were scared.
But I guess the part that
They don't get the luxury to be scared.
Yeah. And that at some point you have to reconcile what you're being told with what you're seeing.
Yeah.
Right.
And so as you see these individuals who are peaceful and are telling you, I just want you to stand next to me, arm in arm, and I want you to show them how Myrtle Beach can be the example.
Yeah.
I like literally have chills running up my legs, okay, right now. But that's literally what they're saying on video is just stand with us, next to us, arm in arm, and show that Myrtle Beach can be the example, that it doesn't have to be like other cities are. Let's show them how to do this right. And this is what we're seeing, you know? So at some point you have to reconcile what's presented in front of you versus what you're hearing.
Yeah. What did my grandma say? I believe none of what you hear and half of what you see. You know what I mean? And so, and we also, you know, it goes back to think we don't think this happens in our backyard, right?
Yeah.
But it does. And the great example of that is the Julian Benton case. And this was a man who police come in, they say that they knock, but they don't. And they come in and they shoot him and they paralyze him for selling a bag of weed, right? Something that is legal in like a bunch of other states. It just was uncalled for, and the police officers lied about it, and now this man is paralyzed over it.
And but for the fact that he had cameras at his home,
Yeah.
we wouldn't have even known what really happened.
When life gets up.